Well, welcome everyone to this local council election launch. A very exciting time for the movement, a very exciting time for the party. I'm Jim McMahon, I'm the chair of the Cooperative Party, and in addition, of course, I'm the MP for Oldham West and Royton and the Shadow Environment Secretary. Today's event will be closed captioned to make sure that we can be as accessible as possible. And today you will see a fantastic lineup of cooperators from up and down the country who are really making that cooperative difference on the ground. You'll hear from a range of speakers, not least of all Annelise Dodd, who of course is the chair of our sister party, the Labour Party, and a fantastic cooperator in her own right. We'll also hear from Joe Fortune as our General Secretary, who will map out what the campaign means and the foundation that we're working up from. And in a sense, reflecting on the hard work of our party staff and our party councils in getting now over 1,000 candidates representing 90% of all council seats that are up for election. So Joe, to you, to Emma Hodgenott for the work that you've done and the rest of the team for the fantastic endeavours to really get the message out there, to make us relevant to the community that we represent, and also to show that actually politics can make a difference. Thank you for all that you do. These are really important elections. We have been through the pandemic and we were promised as a nation that when we come out of the pandemic, things will be better than they were than when we went into the pandemic. The weak foundations of our economy and our society and our politics will be repaired because of the sacrifice that we all made. But what we're now facing is a cost of living crisis that will send many people to the wall in very difficult circumstances. And I suspect there are many people who maybe 6 months ago, maybe even 3 months ago, thought that they were doing okay, they were just about getting by. But when faced with conservative tax increases on national insurance, on the personal tax allowance, on council's tax, and the rest, coupled with, we all know just how expensive petrol and diesel can be now. We all know how much our gas and electric bills are going up. We all know just how much the food is going up at the supermarket. People who thought they were just about getting by before are going to find themselves in very difficult circumstances. And when they look to the government to help, where were the government? They weren't even idle bystanders. They were actively making it worse. The worst tax increases at the worst possible time as families are struggling to make ends meet. And I reflect on the campaigns that we ran as cooperators, whether it's about our food justice campaigns, not just about having food champions, not just about creating food partnerships, but actually on the ground making a difference, where it was cooperators even delivering the food parcels. And I know during the pandemic, when some Conservative MPs were earning a consultancy in offshore tax havens, I was delivering food parcels in my community with the help of other cooperators. We were making sure that kids didn't go hungry during the half term, that key workers were fed when they were struggling to make ends meet. And there'll be more people who are going to be forced into that situation where they're going to choose between putting food on the table or heating the home, where they're going to be forced to choose. And let's be honest, there is no choice. You always feed your children before you feed yourself. And the number of parents, and in particular mothers, who miss a meal just to make sure there is food on the table for their children is phenomenal. You know, over 4 million people now living in absolute poverty, missing meals in one of the world's richest countries. And that should be the drive that really sends us onto the doorstep. That a different future is possible. And we know through our campaigns, where it's about tax justice, food justice, our modern day slavery campaigns, that when we really put our elbow to it, there is nothing that we can't achieve in raising awareness, but also making that difference on the ground. Now, just imagine what we can achieve with now 1,000 candidates standing, flying the Cooperative and Labour flag, 7 metro mayors, all out taking place in the 32 London boroughs and also in the city of Birmingham. You know, cooperators on the ground showing that politics doesn't have to be removed, doesn't have to be disconnected. And when people look at the TV and Prime Minister's questions and they look at the morning news and they see a government that is so disconnected from everyday reality, it will be the cooperators on the ground who are showing that we are absolutely rooted in the communities that we seek to serve. We are absolutely rooted in politics that will make a difference. You know, the disconnect and the distrust now in politics, when people were making so many sacrifices during the pandemic, while those who were making the rules were breaking the rules and partying, is absolutely profound. But it's not for us to be fatalistic. It's for us to rebuild that bridge, to show the community that politics can be positive and the levers of power, when pulled to the benefit of the community, can make a real difference. And throughout the course of today, you're going to hear fantastic examples from up and down the country, from cooperators in power, whether they're candidates standing in Scotland, in Wales, in our cities, right across the country. We're going to hear that difference. And the first speaker, we're Roxana from Newham. So we're going to transfer from Oldham to Newham to hear the real difference that cooperators are making on the ground. And I'm sure, like me, by the end of this call, you'll be absolutely inspired to get out on the door and to spread that message. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Jim, and hi everyone. It's really great to be with fellow cooperators and all my colleagues that have been really motoring and marshalling the cooperative agenda in local government in this country against the backdrop of something that has been so unprecedented for all of us. I stood as the Labour and Cooperative Mayor here in the East End of London in a borough called Newham. We have the largest and most significant diverse community anywhere in the country. 78% of our resident population are ethnic minority, but we've also have some of the most scarring features of inequality, poverty and deprivation. We have the largest number of no recourse to public fund families and households living in our borough, a population of some 373,000 people. When I stood for office, I promised that I would involve people in the way in which we took decisions in the council, that we would be pursuing an anti-poverty and a fairness agenda. And obviously during that 4-year period, we've also been afflicted by COVID-19. And our 3 highest priorities under my administration as a cooperative mayor here in Newham has been tackling health inequalities, dealing with the effects of COVID-19 and making sure that we address those scarring enduring features of poverty and inequality. And we've also been ensuring that we've been dealing with the issues of the underinvestment in adult social care. The people in Newham have poorer health outcomes than any population overall, with shorter life expectancy. And as you imagine, we were really, really badly and severely hurt and hit by COVID-19, not only in economic terms, but also in health terms. And as a consequence of that, we mobilised and marshalled the community spirit that makes us as a cooperative administration very much realise the values of cooperation through our work with our communities. We spent £29 million on COVID-19. The government only gave us £19 million in return, leaving us with a £10 million shortfall. But we worked and we will continue to work with our communities in ensuring that we are, against the backdrop of the crushing cost of living crisis, there for our residents to create a fairer Newham as part of our contribution to a fairer country and a fairer Britain. And what we're doing through our work over the last 5 years, through marshalling our joint efforts with the voluntary, community and faith sectors, we're supporting so many households, including children, with issues as it pertains to food insecurity, and the point that Jim made about the importance of food justice as a key feature of what we're going to be offering to the people and the voters of Newham come the 5th of May. The other thing that we've been doing in line with our cooperative values, very much driven by our mission and our purpose to embed an inclusive growth economy locally, driving forward the community wealth building agenda that is very much embraced by the Cooperative Party, and that's something that we've been pioneering here locally. We've been also ensuring that we meet our commitments to the London Living Wage, and we pay all of our council staff, but also more importantly, those vital care workers on the front line who've been helping our most vulnerable, our most elderly, and we pay them the London Living Wage, having become an accredited London Living Wage council. And looking ahead, as we continue building on our cooperative values and our cooperative agenda, you will see more of the advancing of community wealth building and that inclusive growth economy, so that no one's left behind here locally in Newham, in East London. And we will be looking at establishing cooperative models of social care. We will be continuing making the case for the London living wage, because a hard day's work deserves a fair day's pay. We will continue advancing our work in supporting families against the backdrop of the cost of living crisis. Already our service area at the council supported some 1,350 people back into work during the COVID-19 pandemic, including 650 young people aged between the ages of 18 and 24. We know that young people are going to be hardest hit, and through our work that we're doing in order to ensure that we are supporting those most vulnerable whose incomes are being squeezed. We are supporting so many families in ensuring that they can increase their incomes by accessing all those grants and emergency financial assistance. And through the work that we've been doing, we've increased residents' income by £2.3 million over the past 12 months. And that's something that we will be continuing and helping so many of those families with children facing so much hardship. The coming years, the coming months, are going to be really crushing for so many of our people, and we, as part of the cooperative family, will be demonstrating our values in very practical ways through our Newham Food Alliance. Already we've distributed tons and tons of food, helping some 6,000 families presently with regular distribution of food, and that's something that we will continue doing, because we know, as Jim said, there's going to be so many families that are crushed with the cost of living crisis, the high energy bills, and the risks and the pressures that so many families will be facing. So on that note, I'm looking forward to joining and being part of the ongoing mission as a mayor that's proud to be standing on a cooperative party platform here in East London, here in Newham, alongside Phil, who I can see on our chat, and making sure that we make the case for cooperative values as part of a compelling agenda to transform this country and ensure that no one's left behind. And at this juncture, I'll pass over to Joe Fortune.
Thanks very much for that, Roxana, and indeed Jim. Friends, I'm Joe Fortune. I'm proud to be your General Secretary. I'm not only proud to be your General Secretary, but I'm proud of our Cooperative Party mission. Our Cooperative Party mission is to promote and defend our cooperative movement. We know that our movement makes such a difference. We know that our movement right across the country, right in every community, brings positivity, brings change, brings a fairer economy for all. That's why I'm proud of the things that we do every day. I'm proud of the things that the Cooperative Party are able to do yesterday, today, and the things we'll do tomorrow as well. But I'm also proud of where we've got to together, friends, on this call, and many hundreds of us across the country. We've got to a point where we're standing a record number of candidates for the Cooperative Party and indeed the cooperative movement in these set of elections. Over 1,000 candidates, friends. 1,000 candidates are standing up for the Cooperative Party, standing up and speaking out for cooperative values and principles. What an amazing result! An amazing result. Last time I joined you last year, friends, I thought that was a record. We were on 800 last year. We've gone further, and we'll go further again. I think I hope up our numbers of successful candidates right across the country. We commit to working with all of those, whether yourselves are lucky or unlucky come May. We will be there working for you, working with you, and I hope taking our cooperative message onwards no matter what. I'm proud of where we're up to, and I'm proud of the difference we can make. I'm proud of the cooperative difference, the hashtag of this campaign, the cooperative difference that we can make, the difference we can make in unlocking our high streets. We know that there's potential for community ownership, for community involvement, and for the importance of rejuvenated high streets. We know that cooperative values can help in that. We know that our campaign and our values and our principles will make a big difference there. We look forward to the difference we can make in food justice. Already spoken about, dreadful situation we find ourselves in the country today. So many millions of us struggling to get by. We know that cooperative values can make a difference there. We know our cooperative values can make a difference in tax, in fair tax, paying our way, making sure that our councils are at the vanguard of our fair tax movement. I think so critical to the way in which the country we find ourselves today as well. And further, I know that the difference that local cooperative economies can make, we've seen it right across the country. We've seen it, whether that be within community wealth building, whether it be in cooperative development itself. Some amazing things can be done when we work together. Some amazing things can be done when we work with our values and principles right at the forefront of the way in which we execute our politics. So therefore, friends, we're at an amazing point. We're at a point where we're able to deliver for our movement. We're at a point where we'll be able to deliver for our communities, and where I believe that the absolute foundations of a fairer economy will start. That's what's in front of us. That's where we've grown to. That's where you've grown to. I want to say thank you to you. I want to say thank you to all our candidates. I want to say thank you to all of our parties right across the country who've worked so hard to get selected. Support yourselves in any way that they can. I want to say thank you to our members and supporters as well. It's through our combined efforts that we get to these points. It's through our combined and cooperative efforts that we will deliver for our cooperative movement ever more louder and ever more prouder. And that's what I'm going to be doing between now and May, is being loud and proud for cooperative values and principles, loud and proud for yourselves, for all all of the cooperative things that you will stand on and stand for. And that's where we'll be with you through that period of time. We'll be supporting you as much as we can, and we'll be doing that post-election as well. We'll do that all the way through the year, because we're proud of what we do at the Cooperative Party. And now, having said all of that, I've got the absolute pleasure of introducing one of the best, one of our brightest, one of the greatest leaders that we have in the cooperative movement, that the Labour Party has within its movement as well. Annelise Dodd, chair of the Labour Party, one of the most fantastic Labour and cooperative members of Parliament that you can shake a stick at. Annelise, it's over to you. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Joe, for such a lovely, very kind, overly generous, I must say, introduction, because it's so exciting to be joined by so many leaders from the cooperative movement, from right up and down the country. And I'm sure those of you who've met Joe before know he's someone who just exudes optimism, who exudes that passion for cooperative values. But he's absolutely right to be so excited about those 1,000 candidates that we have for these elections. What an amazing milestone to pass together, to have 1,000 people who will have that Labour and that cooperative badge next to their names when it comes to those May elections. I know the transformation that will be made when we have those extra councillors in place, because just as so many others have said so many times before, we know the difference that cooperation makes, especially cooperation that works hand in glove with our great party. I launched the Cooperative Recovery Task Force with the Co-op Party some months ago, and that process showed me how it's cooperatives that are at the heart of our recovery right now. I saw what they're doing up and down the country. I saw how in London, a cooperative approach is building new family services, great for children, great for their families, how it's revitalising communities and businesses. And it's so exciting that we've got leaders from Hackney and Greenwich here, and of course, wonderful to hear from Roxana with her pride and passion for Newham as well. I saw the cooperative difference in Yorkshire, where we've got so many brilliant examples of cooperators to draw on. But just to talk about one, the Metro Mayor, Dan Jarvis, who's been using his commitment to cooperation to develop new opportunities for local young people. And of course, that's at the same time as the cooperative group as a whole has been focused on delivering those apprenticeships for young people at a time when our government is failing so badly to support young people who need that help. From Sheffield to Dumfries, I saw how our cooperative approach, so often backed by Labour, can give people that key to the rejuvenation of high streets that Joe talked about, stopping shops closing, stopping buildings being boarded up, stopping services being ripped out of communities by helping people to organise, bringing them together, buying up those facilities themselves, community assets, breathing new life into them. An approach that I'm really excited to see is being worked on in North Ayrshire too. So brilliant to have representatives from there here tonight. And of course, we can't forget the exciting step change in cooperation we're seeing in Labour-run Wales. It's been at the heart of Labour's approach in Wales for many, many decades. It has that backing now to radically transform so many communities. And I'm really excited about what's taking place there. And I've seen this myself just about every week in my own city of Oxford too. I've seen how a Labour council can speedily drive forward action against the climate crisis with the country's first ever zero emission zone, now here in Oxford, while always working closely with local people on their aspirations for the local environment. And that's built on the mutual aid that we built up with Labour and Cooperative MP, myself, Labour and Cooperative councillors, and groups of local residents, street by street, working together to provide that support for people that's so desperately needed, just as Jim talked about at the start of this rally. You know, from the skills crisis to the climate crisis, Labour activists and cooperators are already helping us to rebuild our economy and our communities. But as many have already said, that task could not be more critical right now. Our people are facing a cost of living crisis. The bills are going up and up and up while their wages stay the same or even fall in value. Mutualism is more important than ever. Those community-run food banks, those credit unions, they're more critical than we've ever seen before for many communities. But our radicalism is more important than ever before. The same radicalism that motivated the pioneers in Rochdale and is now at the heart of Labour's approach to that cost of living crisis. Because rather than the Tories' approach to rising fuel bills, a buy now, pay later scheme, typically individualist approach, leaving people to sink or swim on their own, our solution, the Labour solution, backs everyone, using a windfall tax on oil and gas companies who are posting record profits to take £200 off every household bills and up to £600 for the most hard pressed. And rather than the Tories right now loading extra costs, extra taxes onto working people and businesses, as we've seen, of course, just today, at this perilous time for so many people's finances, we are supporting people and backing them as Labour and as the Cooperative Party, not knocking them down. And of course, rather than allowing those linked to Putin's cronies a safe haven in our country, we'd close all of those money laundering loopholes and we'd aim for the tax justice that for so long has been a clarion call of Labour cooperators. We've really got to seize this moment for the sake of the people who will benefit so much from Labour and cooperative leadership. I want to wish all of you who are candidates here all the best in your campaigns. I can't wait to see you out in the campaign trail. I've been out with so many Labour cooperators already, brilliant candidates. I want to meet more of you as Labour chairman. I'm going up and down the country over the just 29 days we've got left until May the 5th. And I want us together to achieve that goal. More Labour and cooperative councillors than ever before, and more Labour and cooperative leaders than ever before. And that enables me to introduce our next brilliant speaker. Many of you will know him already, Philip Glanville, directly elected Mayor of the London Borough of Hackney, someone who's so passionate about cooperation and what it can unlock for local communities, as he's doing in Hackney. So over to you.
Thanks, Annelise. A real honour to come after you, Mayor Fiaz and other speakers. I'd like to thank you especially for the work that you've been doing as Labour Party Chair and Shadow Women and Equality Secretary. I think, you know, we've only seen in the last couple of weeks how the Tories continue to fail on equalities. They always have done. And whether it's the Sewell report or how we're seeing the collapse of confidence in LGBT communities across the UK and abroad. We've seen the cancelling of the conference, resignation of business advisor, and the cruel exemption of trans people from their plan to outlaw conversion therapy. And we should be really clear that all forms of conversion therapy are torture, and no one should be subjected to it. And I'm really pleased about what we've been doing to stand up to this. Jim also mentioned the cost of living crisis and that disconnect from the Tories. And we've seen from whether it's the big society or the plan to build back better, empty rhetoric, and each time a deeper sense of betrayal from communities across the UK. And I think contrast that with that cooperative recovery task force that you launched, Annelise, and where we want to place cooperative values as a source of positive change, and also that politics and hope go hand in hand when the Labour Party is working with cooperative values. All of this commitment to equalities and social justice is one of the reasons I'm really proud to be a Labour and cooperative mayor, and also candidate in May. I've spoken to cooperatives over the last 6 years that I've been mayor on community wealth building, social justice, food justice, modern slavery. And I think we've seen time and time again the Cooperative Party really at the heart of the campaigning force within our Labour movement. We haven't been in power nationally since 2010. That hasn't stopped the Cooperative Party being a real force for change in our communities. And that's when we're in power, like the Co-op Party is in Hackney, but also in opposition, where we've led real campaigns in our communities. We've heard a lot from Roxana about food poverty. It's no different in Hackney. Real challenges and disproportionality brought to the fore through COVID and through the cost of living crisis that we're going through. I'm really proud that we're using cooperative values at the heart of our response to that. So we have a programme of supporting Alexander Rose vouchers, Healthy Start vouchers, and ensuring that they can be spent in our high streets. So rather than just seeing people have to go to Tesco's or big supermarkets, you can use our street markets like Ridley Road to spend those vouchers, creating a more circular economy and embedding food justice. That's been something that we have also done in our COVID response around food poverty. We've used it to support our food vouchers, and I'm really proud that the right to food is enshrined in our 2022 manifesto that I'm standing on. Jim talked about the high street, I think, and Joe did. And I do think the cooperative and inclusive model is absolutely vital to our version of building back better. In Hackney, that has meant a resolute commitment to the London Living Wage and Ethical Care Charter, insourcing all services where we can, and where we can't, using a sustainable procurement strategy that has social enterprise and cooperative values at its heart. That means more of our spend going into our local communities, the options around apprenticeships and training and support, as well as being more sustainable in terms of what we do around the environment. It is also where we've embodied the Modern Slavery Charter. So all of our procurement has that embodied into it. We're going to go further in our manifesto, talking about how we embed the campaign around fire and rehire, and making sure that we have the very best labour standards. We also have been looking to our markets, the community asset models, and buying and investing in our town centres to get that circular economy growing, and making sure that everything that we do can increase the social activity in our communities. I mentioned insourcing. We've just brought our parking service in-house. That is hundreds of local people that work for the council. We're going to see an increase in their terms and conditions, but also we can do more around idling and some of those environmental issues that residents want to see us tackle. On housing, I think the Cooperative Party have been at the heart of that fight for better renting. There's nothing more important in London around the cost of living crisis when you look at the impact of rents on private.
We seem to have lost Phil mid-sentence there, which is a great shame. He was.
I'm back.
Hey, that's good.
Sorry, I was going to talk about refugees as well. We've heard reference to the type of economy that's been supported, dirty money and oligarchs and tax justice. But I think none of us would want to not recognise our solidarity with mayors and councillors and local communities across Ukraine. And I think the Cooperative Party and their values, but also our community values, a lot of the response around supporting refugees through the Syrian crisis, through Afghans, and now people that are hosting Ukrainians, come from that sense of wanting to take action locally. Our manifesto in Hackney is working together for better Hackney. That is full of 300 promises that has been co-produced, not just with Labour Party members in Hackney, but a dedicated session with our local cooperative party. And it really takes those lessons that Roxana said about how we work together in the crisis. We cannot do two people anymore. We have to unlock their potential. We have to go where their aspirations are. And we're only going to solve the cost of living crisis where cooperative values are at our heart. We've got to embed that in what we do. I think we see that in the building common ground work that the Cooperative Party have already set out. So when we tackle poverty and inequality, it's not just enough to change things nationally. We've got to create real resilience locally as well. I'm really looking forward to the next couple of weeks on the doorstep. We have a real opportunity to work with those 1,000 cooperative candidates across the country. There are nearly 20 here in Hackney, Mayor Fiaz, the London mayors, the Metro mayors. And I come back to the biggest issue, I think, of the day, which is climate justice and how that fits in with the cost of living crisis. If retrofit was delivered with cooperative principles, we'll be seeing jobs and skills in our local communities, a real growth in that green economy, fairness and social justice at the heart of tackling climate change, and getting to net zero while tackling fuel poverty, not getting involved in those culture wars, seeing energy generation led by our communities rather than fracking and big oil. This is a real rallying cry, I think, for cooperation and Labour. Joe said we're a mission and a movement, and I think that is why the Cooperative Party has been at the heart of our response. We will and can rebuild our communities from the bottom up using cooperative principles. That's what I hope to see at Hackney and the Cooperative Party and Hackney's return to power with me as mayor. But this is a pan-London movement. I'm really proud to hand over to Councillor Denise Scott MacDonald, who's the Cabinet Member for Regeneration and crucially good growth in the Royal Borough of Greenwich. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Phil. What an act to follow, actually, you and everyone here tonight. I was a candidate in 2018 and I was a cooperative candidate then. And I'm really, really proud to be a candidate again and part of the 1,000 this time round. A lot more councillors candidates this time round, which is really brilliant. And also representing a cooperative council, embedding values and principle in everything we do is so key and so crucial. And one of the reasons why I decided to be a cooperative candidate again is because I love the fact that whenever I'm around cooperators, there are ideas flowing left, right and centre, and ideas that get me really excited, whether I go to the conference in Bristol or whether one in London. I love the fact that every time there's cooperators in the room, there's lots of ideas. Not only that, we put the community first and we look to the community to drive through things and to explain to us and to help us come up with things to make society better. And also the other part is inequality. There's a clear message about dealing with inequality in everything we do, whatever we touch. And here in Greenwich, just like Phil and Roxana, we have our challenges. We're based in South East London. A lot of people, when they think of Greenwich, they think of the lovely park, which I absolutely love, and I live right nearby, and they think of all the tourist stuff. But we're a borough that experiences some of the very same challenges. We have almost up to 50% of the population who identify themselves as Black, as Asian, and most people don't realize that. We also have very high levels of poverty, which was really highlighted during the COVID crisis and the pandemic. And so these are real things that we are tackling, and real inequalities, which a few years ago we had a Fairness Commission to deal with some of the things and to take on board and to look at what was going on in our community. One of the things that we do in our borough is that we have an organisation called GCDA, which is a partnership organisation. It's Greenwich Cooperative Development Agency, and this agency works on things like food justice, health inequality, and they were working well before the pandemic. They were crucial in the pandemic because they cooked loads of food and they distributed lots of food. And they're not just about helping and just giving out food, but they also do other things like teach people about running a food business, teach people about cooking and things like that. And today in Greenwich, they are the ones also leading on our Holiday Hunger Club, which we run during the holidays to feed our young people who are on free school meals. And every holiday, and including will happen at Easter, they literally run out of food, because the need keeps growing and growing and growing. And so it's a great thing that's going on there, but it's still the challenge is right there. We also do work with our employment. We have a borough that's, even though we have very success rates in our schools, this is not going through in employment, and especially amongst our Black and Asian children and young people, they are not being hired or recruited in jobs, and they're not seeing the job opportunities come. So in our employment partnership, we work with an agency called GLAB, which is Greenwich Local Labour and Business. And in that group and that organisation, we've decided to join up some of our services and do a much more rounded approach. And that came actually through our Fairness Commission and talking to local residents, saying they wanted a much more joined up approach towards employment, so that they could actually spot things. Because sometimes some of it's to do with mental health, and tapping mental health and tapping employment and join that all up in all that fixed up way. So that was some of the ideas. Another thing that we do is also something called a ward budget. We identified about £500,000 and we gave every ward £30,000 to do things in their community. And so some of the things that this also meant having conversations with local residents and saying, what, we've got the top pot of money, how do you want us to spend it? And having this pot of money meant that we didn't have to go through a lot of the sort of red tape that you do, or things take forever, but actually gave the communities actual progress. So sometimes some of the community were concerned about pollution, so they wanted to do things like grow more trees or have beehives and things like that. So those were little things. Other things were some of the local council estate wanted to do get-togethers and bring their community together and have either Christmas event or have fairs, and we could do those little projects like that. But these were very much, they only could happen because the community, we had those conversations with the local community. And sometimes they weren't necessarily looking for the big things, even though those things are important, but they were looking to say, are you listening to us? Do you support our project? We know it's not that big on the spectrum of the council world, but will you support us, and will you come and stand beside us? So these are just some of the little things and the big things we're doing in Greenwich. But the great thing, I think, is about embedding values and principles in everything we do. We are looking at procurement. We have also said in our manifesto that we want to set up a cooperative commission, much like what's going on in Manchester with Andy Burnham and other local authorities. And I don't know if Hackney doing one too. I'm not sure if Hackney, am I right? I don't know, I could have this wrong. No, you're not doing one, but I know a London Borough is doing one. But we want to do it because we see the value in it. And we've seen over this last administration what embedding cooperative values and principles within our decision making, in all areas, whether we're looking at food justice, whether we're looking at employment, or whether we're looking at doing things like our ward budget. So for me, it's about, as I said before, it's about the community first and foremost, and looking to them. Second, it's about dealing with inequality in real ways, in real conversations, and people saying to us how they want us to deal with inequalities. And third part of it is about the fairness of it all, and ideas being driven. And that's why I'm a candidate again, and that's why my colleagues are candidates again, and that's why I'm really proud to be with each and every one of you on this platform. And I will hand over to Joe, who's up north, further north from London. Anyway.
Yeah, thank you very much, Denise, for that. I am probably the most northern based councillor here, being based in Scotland, and we have local government elections across the whole of Scotland. We have a different system of local government here. We have 32 unitary authorities, and that's it, and all 32 are up for election this May. I think it's already been said that the Cooperative Party is fielding a record number of councillors or candidates at this council election, and that's no different up here in Scotland, including in my own local authority of North Ayrshire, where we have 5 out of the 14 being Labour and Cooperative candidates, which is really great news. The importance of the elections in Scotland, I think, can't be understated for the Labour and Cooperative movement. I think if we are to win the next general election, then we need to start improving our position politically in Scotland. I think the route to a Labour government across the UK, it runs throughout Scotland, and we have the unfortunate position of having 2 bad governments in Scotland, not just the UK government, the Tory government, but we also have a SNP government in Edinburgh that have been in power for 15 years, and the delivery on public services and the likes has just been absolutely appalling. So we are looking to really make a difference in this local government election and start to build the base for the Labour Party and the Labour and Cooperative movement to build towards the next general election so that we can win power and change lives. So we need to demonstrate in local government the difference that Labour can make in our communities, and I think that's what we have been trying to do in North Ayrshire, and we'll certainly be trying to do as we look to win this election in a few weeks' time. It's already been mentioned by other speakers that they are pursuing community wealth building as an approach to change the local economy, and we are the first community wealth building council in Scotland. 2 years ago, we launched our community wealth building strategy, and it's not just about spending a wee bit more money in procurement with local businesses. Our strategy is a full-blown attempt to reorientate the whole local economy, looking at how we use publicly owned land, how do we deliver jobs that provide fair work, how do we look to establish a mutually owned community bank for people to deposit their money and create new finance. How do we change the ownership of the economy so that we have a more generative business base, cooperatives, worker-owned businesses, etc. We've also got a massive council house building programme. We're building 1,625 council houses across the whole of North Ayrshire, including delivering the first council houses on one of our islands, Arran, for the first time in 4 decades. We're upgrading every single sheltered housing complex in North Ayrshire, investing £25 million to do so. And we've got a solar panel retrofitting programme which will install 6,000 solar panels onto 6,000 council houses over the next period. So reducing carbon emissions and crucially reducing our tenants' fuel bills given the cost of living crisis as well. We were the first council in the UK to deliver free sanitary products to our secondary schools, and then we extended that into our community public buildings as well, and that's obviously been rolled out across the whole of Scotland following the successful passing of Monica Lennon MSP's bill. We were the first council in Scotland to deliver mental health counsellors into all our secondary schools as well, and other speakers have spoke about the Right to Food campaign, which the Cooperative Party has been heavily involved in from day one, and certainly we've been leading the way on that front as well. We've been delivering a holiday meal programme during the school holidays for a good 5-6 years now, and during the pandemic we transitioned to also opening up a network of community larders and fridges, providing sort of low cost food in a dignified way for our citizens. One of the big sort of initiatives that we've been pursuing over the last 12 months or so is our council-owned renewable energy projects. So we have plans for free council-owned solar farms and free council-owned wind turbines. That will actually generate 277% of the council's energy needs, so we'll become a net exporter of renewable energy. And we're looking at options to sell that to some of the other public bodies in North Ayrshire, such as the NHS board. That will generate an income to the council, and our objective over the next term is to use that income to really start reducing fuel poverty. We obviously have a cost of living crisis just now being fuelled by rising energy prices, and we feel that there's the opportunity to use our council-owned renewable energy income to start reducing tenants' and residents' energy bills by making their homes more energy efficient. If we're going to change the ownership of the local economy as well, then I think that we need to intervene to support cooperative business startups. We're not trying to grow a cooperative economy in North Ayrshire, we're looking to create one. We don't have a particularly thriving cooperative economy at this moment in time. So I think we need to be looking at an intervention that allows us to do that. In Preston, Matthew Brown has set up the Preston Cooperative Development Network, and we are certainly looking at that type of model with a cooperative development agency. And we're also committed to try and use a small proportion of the income from the council-owned renewable energy to provide a loan fund to support cooperative development startups. A number of other speakers have already mentioned how we should be doing town centre regeneration, looking at vacant and derelict sites and how do we bring those back into productive use. We've been trying to bring some sites in North Ayrshire back into council ownership. We've bought some sites in town centres and we're turning them into council housing, for example. But in terms of the next term, we're very much focused on using any regeneration funds that the council can access in a way that brings these sites back into productive use for our communities. We're not interested in fancy paving stones. We're looking at substantial changes that benefit our communities. So we are looking at the possibility of creating a high street buyout fund to try and get more of these sites into council and community ownership and out of private hands, and give us the local control to start changing our communities for the better. I think that sort of agenda is what the Labour and cooperative movement should be on. I think if we pursue that type of agenda, then we can start to rebuild trust in places like Scotland. We can show communities that when Labour has power, we make a substantial difference to their lives. And I think that's what being a Labour and cooperative council should be all about. I'm going to end there because I know that we've got other speakers, and I'm going to pass on to Jackie Jones, who is the chair of the Wales Cooperative Party Council. So Jackie.
Hello everyone, Prynawn da. Thank you very much, and I'm absolutely delighted to be at this rally. Cooperative in power. It's absolutely brilliant. And not least because Wales is also a success story, not just for Welsh Labour government led by Mark Drakeford, but also Wales. Now 16 out of the 30 Welsh members are cooperators. Together, that is the majority of those for all in Wales. It's from the Cooperative Party Senedd Manifesto are part of the Welsh Labour Radical Programme. There's even a Minister for Cooperative Economy. Cooperators in power can make a huge difference. Nearly 70 local candidates, you maybe on the call, who have chosen to stand as cooperative and Labour. So the party here in Wales is growing in membership because people are seeing the values and the policies that will enrich our communities through cooperators in power. Well, I've stood as a Welsh Labour and cooperative candidate in 3 elections now. I'm a glutton for punishment, I think. In the local council elections in 2017, in the European Parliament elections, and last year in the Senedd elections as well. This May, again, I'm standing as a Cooperative Party and Welsh Labour candidate in Whitchurch and Tom Gwynlais in Cardiff. Why am I doing that? Well, the same reasons probably that many of you on this call and elsewhere are doing so as well. The policies. It's as simple as that. Well, like the democratic public ownership of the services and the utilities we rely on to fight the cost of living crisis, tackling the housing crisis through a cooperative housing, a nation of sanctuary, that's Wales, credit unions, the cooperative centre in Wales, working with trade unions, but really working with trade unions here in Wales, a community bank for Wales, shops owned by their customers that give back to their community, working cooperatively in local areas. And yes, the Preston model as well, absolutely brilliant. The Cooperative Party Local Election Manifesto provides great ideas that can fundamentally and progressively transform our communities. These, alongside a Welsh Labour government, make a huge difference. So, for example, food justice at the very top of the agenda, so important right now. A fairer local economy, a national forest for Wales. The circular economy, unlocking our high streets, and to see what that looks like in the local community. It's very different across Wales, whether it's rural or urban areas. Building local council houses across Wales, fighting against corporation tax avoidance, safer retail workers and safer communities, a private tenants association to give private renters a voice, new cooperative and community-led housing. Credit unions have already been mentioned. Well, climate justice or free school meals, as Joe just mentioned, ethical public procurement, modern-day slavery policies, and community transport and not-for-profit bus operators. All of these and many, many more things are so important and vitally important for our local communities. These are the policies we need right now. That is where you can make a huge positive difference to the lives of everyone in your community, in our communities. Well, the patron saint of Wales is St. David's, and he said, be joyful, keep the faith, and do the little things. Little things mount up to bigger things, and they transform our communities. This is what people remember about people who are their representatives. As cooperators, our values and policies not only make people feel better about the choices they make, they also help them to cope better with the Tory cuts to benefits and housing, the Tory cost of living catastrophe, the energy prices, the petrol prices, the food prices. We cannot afford these Tories in any ward, in any part of our country, and in any part of our democratic institutions any longer. Together, we can help those struggling with the Tory cost of living catastrophe. Together, we can set up community services that help us all, and together we can build a better community. As cooperators in power, we can make it a reality. Let's make it happen in May, guys. Let's do it.
Thank you very much, Jackie. And on that rallying call from Wales that looks absolutely lovely, I have to say, it just comes to me to say a massive thank you to our speakers. You've all been really inspiring. So we've had Jim McMahon, Chair of the Cooperative Party, alongside Annelise Dodd, Chair of the Labour Party, our own General Secretary, Joe Fortune, Mayors Philip Glanville and Roxana Fiaz, Councillor Denise Scott MacDonald in Greenwich, but also President of the Co-op's National Members Council as well. Great to have you standing. And then Joe Cullinane, leader of North Ayrshire, and finally Jackie Jones, who is Chair of Wales Co-op Party and also standing as well. Thank you very much for your inspirational words this evening. And I hope to see those of you that are standing elected in just 28 days time till polling day. We haven't got long to go. So go out there, go and spread cooperation. You're part of our massive cooperative team, over 1,000 candidates. All the borough and metro mayors in the country are standing as co-op as well. Go out, be proud, know that you're representing our movement, and go and win in May. Thank you very much.